the hell was I doing? Hey, blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah. Hello, everyone. I am the one, the only, the truest Lord Pancake. Accept no substitutes, or else they will totally probably misguide you on the greatness of what we're about to discuss. And what is that, you ask? Why, it is Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice. Game that just came out from Ninja Theory, is currently $30 on Steam, and is probably a little different. You may have heard a little bit about it, but it's definitely one of the more unique games that came out. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get on the intro, because to really review this game, I'm going to have to actually go in and let you experience a little bit of it with me. I'm going to try and be as spoiler free as possible, because this is a game that you're going to want to experience from start to finish. So while this is loading up here, which might take a second. So what is Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice? What is like the meat of it? What is it about? Well, Senua is the main character, and you are on a vision quest to try and save your lover, Dillion, from hell. Or that is the surface. But, and this is not hidden at all. This is actually presented up front of the game. What it really is,
you're safe with me,
is
I'll be right here.
an exploration of psychosis.
So I can speak without alerting the others.
Senua is a warrior who suffers from psychosis. And this game is about her journey exploring that and trying to find a way to survive and live with her psychosis. Trying to find a path out of the, so to say, darkness. And they have done a brilliant job with this. They have done a job that is honestly beyond the pale. They had multiple mental health experts, like professors from Cambridge, consulting with them. They consulted with people who have been through the experiences of psychosis and experienced what you go through in the game. This is not one of those games where they're like, oh, you're crazy and that's scary, and it does not use mental health as a negative, as a way to put down or for cheap thrills or for cheap scares. Like right here, that Paul Fletcher guy is a professor at Cambridge who's dedicated his life to studying this and understanding mental health issues and recovering and things like that. And they've consulted with them through the entire process, beginning to end, multiple stages, multiple times, trying to make this a strong representation of exploring what it's like to live with psychosis and the way it impacts it and what they experience, because they wanted to create a understandable and empathetic experience where that's unique to gaming, that you're not going to be able to get just watching a movie or reading a book or something like that. Where, you know, you're in control of Senua, you are pushing her forward, you are experiencing these things directly with her, and you are feeling what it's like. And it's really, really brilliantly done. I mean, if you look around, you can tell, like, visually the game is very, very beautiful. And the imagery does go from, you know, it does go from beautiful moments to dark, disturbing images, but none of it feels like a cheap thrill or a cheap scare or anything like that. It feels very carefully paced, very well thought out. It doesn't feel like exploitation, like so many games are, because so many games are like, oh, you're gonna have you be around crazy people because crazy people are scary. Woo! And it's just games like that just do such a terrible disservice to mental health in general, and this game wants to do the opposite, and it, to me, succeeds greatly. I can't go too much into the story without going into spoilers. I've really given all that I can about the story right already. Is that, you know, as you go through Senua's journey, as you experience things with her, you're going to come to an understanding of what she's like, what led her to this. Things are touched upon in the story, like how even though she's always suffered from psychosis, the societal stigmas that she had to experience and the trauma from that stigma and the mistreatment she had to go through only drove her further down the path of darkness. And that is something extremely important because we haven't gotten over that in society today. Yes, she's, a Celt. It's over 1,000 years ago, but we haven't gotten better in 1,000 years with how we, as a society, often view the mentally ill. I mean, sure, we've gotten a little bit better, but there is a lot of that association with, danger or less than, or someone who needs to be separated from society because they're mentally ill. And it's really, really a bad thing because the mental health tragedy of the world, the mental health problem that the world has, isn't scary, dangerous mental health people that make for less than 5% of people with mental illness. It's the millions of people walking around today suffering from mental illness who are so terrified of the stigma society has placed on them that they never seek help, that they live with conditions that they could have treated because of society and the way we are. And that's really, really, it's both sad and tragic. I know I'm sounding a little social justice warrior there, but the point of this game is to bring awareness to things like that and to use gaming as a way to make it better. And it comes to us in what is a very good game. It's not just I have to play this and say good things or else I'm going to feel guilty, like I'm betraying society or some crap like that. There's a good game built in here too. It's not going to be a game for everyone because gameplay-wise, it is a lot of walking, a lot of puzzles, a little bit of combat. The combat can definitely get intense sometimes. Damn it! Press the wrong button.
No one will judge her.
And the puzzles they're relatively simple to solve, but they are the type of puzzles where if you look in the wrong direction for a minute, you're gonna end up possibly running around for 10 minutes, which I did many times in my Let's Play.
Balder's mother confesses. I thought it was too young.
He saw the warrior.
Oh dear.
He saved you. He saved
Uh-huh.
you. That's you. You owe him. Senua.
Because you looked the wrong way at the wrong second. But they're not frustrating. They actually match into the environment extremely, extremely well. They look built in. And
why don't you join us?
There's a reason for that as well, because another part of the psychosis is, for some people, is that they will see patterns where there are none. They will, have multiple objects suddenly stacked together to make a picture or something when it's not really there. It's part, a little bit part of the delusion aspect of it and things like that. And that's why the puzzles are designed the way they are, to express that. And things like the reason why her psychosis has set into the reason it is because of things like the lore rune here we're about to demonstrate for you real quick. It tells the story of Norse mythology, and the Norse mythology is impacting her delusions. So it helps you kind of get a grasp on what's making what.
They say the burning of a
listen to this for a minute.
Will take you straight to Hela's gate, but gods in the living will follow this path. You must leave the Isles of Orkney across the eastern sea and find a road that leads north and down through deep, dark valleys. After 9 nights of riding, you will follow a great river and will find a bridge covered in gold. The path to Helheim goes from there, across the river of knives that flows from the dark world.
Yeah, I mean, you hear like myths and things like that all throughout. You'll find those throughout the game, and they will help you kind of understand what's happening and what's influencing the delusions that you're going through. The other thing is like sound-wise, like you hear the voices that you're hearing. One, they use multiple experts to learn what it's like to actually experience this firsthand. They actually had people who do hear voices consult and help them design the sound so it's as accurate as possible. And the thing with the voices is, it's not some cheap trope, oh, you're hearing voices, isn't that scary? It is, when you understand like what the voices are, you begin to realize the purpose and the function they serve, it really helps you to understand and relate to Senua even more. Because yes, this game is a vision quest taking place in her head. So, and yes, you know, once you realize what the voices represent, I think you're really gonna understand them better. And again, visual-wise, this game is beautiful. I mean, it's full of some very beautiful environments, some very dark and scary environments. Environments from all into things, and it's all very, very beautiful. And like Senua herself, the design of the character, is actually one of the people that helped design the game, but they also used her for motion capture, and she ended up becoming Senua in the game. And I, very much like the look of her, because she does look like a warrior, picked warrior would end up looking, down like to the hair. They didn't try and like supermodel her up or anything like that. She actually, to me, looks a little bit like Sigourney Weaver in the first Alien movie. You know, I mean, you can tell that she does have this strength that she's carrying with her, this determination.
There's no doubt about it.
To get her through.
The source of the darkness is in
And it's very, very powerful.
And the goddess Hela.
Now, only negative thing I can really say about the game, as far as things go, is I am using a controller to control it. It seems to control really, really well. I have some system lag issues, but that's on my part, because I am running this on what's basically a potato, and I don't know how it's able to run, but it is. Only truly negative thing, though, is the camera sometimes can be a little bit difficult to work with in combat. They don't have like a quick button to switch your lock on. You use the right analog stick to swap through targets, and sometimes it feels like it's a bit sluggish.
She needs to save his soul. She wants his soul to be at peace.
And that can definitely come into handy, because the combat is pretty basic. I mean, you've got a dodge, you have a heavy strike, you have a light strike, you have a block, and you have a kick maneuver. I mean, they all come into play really, really well. And for what limited combat there is, you do have a decent amount of enemy variety. But this also is not a heavy action game. Combat's very slim. It's usually split far in between. But it's definitely in there. I mean, if you're looking for a balls to the wall, action every 30 seconds game, this one's probably not going to be for you. If you're looking for a game that everyone should experience, this might be a little more for you. But this brings us to the conclusion of my review, is that this game gets 5 out of 5 pancakes, hand down, full stack with syrup. And yes, the camera can be a little finicky, which can make combat seem a little difficult sometimes, but it also could be my system, so your experience may vary. As far as like and you know what, I've gone on enough in the review to explain why this game is so great and why this is so important. Kind of the purpose of the review, I think. But yeah, this is a game that anyone who is looking for a good, meaningful game should play this game. Anyone who's looking for a game that's a little bit different should play this game. Anyone who honestly is curious about mental illness and wants to get a better understanding maybe gain a little empathy should play this game. Pretty much, unless the only games you want to play are, again, those balls to the wall, action, every 30 seconds, you don't stop blowing stuff up from the first frame of animation to the last, okay, you're not going to enjoy this game. This game's not going to be for you. And that's okay. But for everybody else, this game is definitely should be in your library. And for $30, yeah, it's definitely well worth it. It is a little bit of a short game. It's about considered like between like a 7 and 10 hour game. Usually closer to the 7-hour mark than the 10-hour mark. Depends on how much you lack observation. But yeah, even short like that, it is completely, totally worth your time, totally worth your effort to play, totally worth your money. And those are my thoughts on the game. If you like my video, make sure you like and subscribe. Share with your friends if you think they'd enjoy it as well. There's a comment section down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the game. I'd love to hear your thoughts on my thoughts on the game. And finally, I have a link for my Patreon. So you can help me continue bringing you content like this, build my new rig so I can start doing things like live streaming and things such as that, and get maybe a better chance to interact with all you fine folks more directly. But hey, until the next one, you guys have a great one, and I will see you then.